Hi everyone, and welcome to the Book Refuge, and welcome to another recommendations video. Today I'm bringing you a Dark Romances Part 2 book recommendations. So, the way that I categorized dark romances means either the subject matter is a little bit heady, there may be lots of trigger warnings within this story, it may be taboo, it may be just something out of the ordinary that, isn't considered light and fluffy, or even, your normal, it's not the normal. So I have 6 books here that I want to talk about with you today. And the first one, I have to talk about one of my new favorite reads, actually, and that is Breaking Perfect by Lydia Michaels. Lydia Michaels is this really intense dark romance reader that I have discovered. And I discovered her when I was looking for some menage relationships that weren't just about like the eroticism of it. This one is categorized as an erotic novel though, just because there is, quite a lot of sex going on, but the issues that we're dealing with are very intense. So this is about a couple. Their names are Liberty and Mason. This is also an age gap, but we're not really dealing with the age gap part of it at all because that happened, previously. We're not telling the story of how they met. Their marriage is already well established and it's going well for them. However, Liberty struggles with some OCD and just a lot of obsessive compulsive things. She punishes herself. She came from a home where she was molested and treated very cruelly. And when Mason, when he was a younger doctor, when he first met her, he knew that he needed to help her, and he ended up falling in love with her through that process, and they got married a few years later. But Liberty still struggles with a lot of things. So to combat this, Mason has set up many routines for her to follow. He always tries to, push her a little for her to slowly start to let go, but also keeps things regular and the same enough so that she doesn't get stressed out and punish herself or hurt herself in any way. Yes, there are trigger warnings for self-harm and abuse in this book when we have flashbacks of Liberty's life. So we start out this book with them they have scheduled intimate time because, again, Mason never wants to shock her or do anything to push her. But something that he doesn't know is that Liberty is wanting more from him. She has moved past the point of feeling shame for wanting to be with her husband and is wanting more. But because she is a shy and timid and had been told previously that any sexual feelings she had made her, a slut, she doesn't know how to bring that up even when it was with her husband. And so he starts to notice these cues about her that maybe she'd be ready for something more with him. About the same time this is happening, a man from Mason's past, his name is Sean, comes back into his life and actually stops by when Mason is gone one day and runs into Liberty. I'm going to put this down and finish talking about it. And he is actually an ex-lover of Mason's. So Mason is bisexual, so is Sean. And they were in love with each other. And Sean actually left Mason because he was afraid to tell his family that he was in love with Mason. And so Sean has come back into Mason's life, and Mason is happily married. He's in his career's doing well, but they do really care about each other, and there's some things that need to get worked through. Well, Sean ends up staying at their house. Him and Liberty and him and Sean start having feelings for each other. And because Mason is very open and also loves both of these people, he encourages them to spend time together as well. And so it starts to build this interesting relationship of the three of them coming closer and closer together. It's a very powerful story because of the things Liberty is dealing with and how both of these men help her work through it. Also, Sean has a lot of damage that he's dealing with. And what is the reason that he left Mason, who was the love of his life? And they could have been together all this time. But then they wouldn't have Liberty. It's good. It's meaningful. It's not just a quick, down and dirty, we're only here for the sex story. There is some real issues to be worked through, and it's amazing. Next, we have Sugar Daddies by Jade West. This one is a little more, oh boy, just for the fun of it. This one is also a menage story. This one is about this gay couple. Well, I mean, I don't want to say that because they're not strictly gay. They're both bisexual. So, but it's two men who are married, and they are looking for a woman to join them. They both want a woman in the relationship. So they want it to be a menage. And they also want this woman to be like their surrogate, but they don't just want her to be that, because they want them to be a family together. And they haven't had a lot of luck finding this. So there's this website called Sugar Daddies where these girls, well, not girls, like, because it's not just girls, but people can go to advertise for things like this. She needs to make some money for school, and she wants to open a horse ranch. And so she's willing to, be in this kind of relationship. So, however, like, one of the men in the relationship is a little harder to deal with than the others. And so her and him have to work through their feelings together, because it can't just be one-sided. Like, they all three have to love each other and communicate well and be together. And it was, again, this one was like surprisingly touching. Like, you are going into it thinking you're getting one thing out of it, and there's actually like a lot of crazy issues that we're dealing with. And these men, they really want a kid, but they don't just want to raise it on their own. Like, they want there to be a woman involved. They want there to be a mother. They want to know and love that mother. And it's very interesting. So the cover of this, again, makes this look like it's purely for smut, but there is a lot more going on in this book. And I know that if you're here watching this video, you know that these things get very interesting. So give this story a try. You won't be disappointed. Next, we have The Twisted Duet by Alessandra Torr. I read these two books way at the beginning of the series, and I really love at the beginning of the year. I really love Alessandra Torr a lot. This is about a couple who they have a great life together. They have a good sex life, but they want to try to spice things up. So they invite a friend to have a threesome with them, and they discover that they like it a lot, but they're afraid that they would mess up their marriage if they did this, like if they invited one particular person. So this is kind of the opposite of the last book I mentioned, that they're not looking to add someone. They're looking to only do this for fun. And so doing it with a friend was actually kind of a mistake. But there is twisted marriage and like dirty vows or something. I can't remember the two. Here's a picture of them. But these were really fun, actually. And it led me into Alessandra Torr, who I've now read like 4 or 5 of her books. And I love her. So definitely give that a try. Next, I have Lev by Bella Aurora, which I've talked about quite a bit as well. This is about a man who definitely is on the autism spectrum in some respects, but he is actually an enforcer and a like accountant for this nightclub. And he meets this girl who, she's a homeless woman. She's been on the streets for the last 8 years, and she steals his brother's wallet, and he catches her. And instead of calling the cops, he says, you can come and work here and you'll have food and clothes and a place to stay, or you can go to jail. And so it's an easy guess for her, but she thinks she's going to have to be, like, she thinks he's asking her to like be his mistress basically. And he's like, no, I just want to take care of you. But he ends up bringing her like to his home to stay. But it's really weird because though he's willing to give her a chance, he's still like, I'm not stupid. Like, I'm willing to give you a chance to prove yourself, but you're going to have to do it at every step. So he never like leaves her alone in the beginning. So like she lets her stay at his house, actually in his room, in his bed, and he sleeps on the couch in the same room because he doesn't trust her not to steal from him. And she's not allowed to like lock any doors or anything. And I know that sounds very controlling, but because of how his brain works, He's not doing any of these things to be pervy. He's not doing any of these things to come on to her. He's just like, this is how I have to do it for you to be in my space. And so he never like pushes the boundaries of that. And it actually makes for a very slow burn, really intense relationship, because he is doing all these things and he is attracted to her, but he's not pushing anything. And she doesn't want to mess up the interaction, and she's used to men always coming on to her. So when he doesn't, she thinks he's not interested. And so these two just have this slow burn that just, but it's really good. It's really good. I wasn't annoyed by it at all. So definitely check out this. This is on Kindle Unlimited and it's very good. Next, I have Savior by Fiona Cole. This is part of her Voyeur series. This is about a girl who is in need of money, and so she's going to sell her virginity. And it's about a man who, his sister was sold into prostitution and was never found again. And because of that, he is a crusader. And so he has a team that like goes onto these websites, finds these women and tries to save them before someone can sell them. But he's never run into a girl who was selling herself before. And so when he shows up, she assumes that he's the one she's supposed to sleep with. And he's like, no, you're actually selling yourself? Like, why would you ever do that? And so he's a little bit judgy, so to say, but he does save her, and he offers her work so that that's what he does with all the women. But he offers her work, and he is more invested in her than anyone else because she looks like his sister. But he's very kind of like hard on her because his sister was stolen and she chose to do this. And though from her point of view, she had no other choice, he's like, you always have a choice and things could have gone very, very badly for you. And we're also in danger because she still has a sister who is getting into lots of trouble, and her sister's boyfriend kind of wants to get revenge for this guy cutting off his income. And so there's a lot of tension right there. But this was a really interesting, all the Voyeur books are pretty dark, but this one was pretty intense because our heroine starts in a very vulnerable place, and our hero's a little bit like rough with her, just kind of like mentally. And so that's why I would consider it a bit darker. And then finally, I have Welcome to the Dark Side by Gianna Darling. This is an age gap that is about a biker, an MC. This is an MC romance about this girl who fell in love with a guy who saved her, even though he's like 18 years older than her and she's younger than some of his kids. And when she's 17 years old, she comes back into his life and she is ready to get her man. This was very dark. There's a lot of intense things going on. This is also on the side of a age gap that I'm not super comfortable with, but the girl is like actively pursuing him, and it's a pretty sexy book. The first one in the series, which I haven't read, is actually an age gap the other way. It's a student-teacher. Student is 18, and it's a female teacher. So these ones it's pretty taboo for that reason as well. But this one was pretty, I don't want to call it fun because it was pretty dark, but it was a good read and I enjoyed myself. So there's that. So yeah, check that out. So there you go, guys. Those are some dark romance recommendations from me. Let me know some of your favorites. This is obviously part 2 of another one, so make sure you check out that as well. I've done a ton of book recommendations lately. You can check out that playlist on my Booktube page anytime for more book recommendations. Thanks so much for watching, and you have a great day. Bye!